Standing before the beast they had been sent to kill, a giant boar of some bizarre kind, Licht is the only member of his party left alive, presumably for its pleasure. Or it just hadn't gotten around to killing a healer yet. The black-lined beast snorts with triumph, watching as the blood pools out of the armored humans strewn across the dirty rock floor of the giant cave. Battered, bruised, beaten, and now dead, it held nothing back. Licht admits its strength, being unharmed for the moment, but that wouldn't last long if this pace continued. He reaches a hand out, and from thin air, a tiny burst of light expands with big motion into a flurry of lights, each forming a line and curve which manifests into writing, crackling with energy as he says aloud the command, Resurrection. At first, nothing changes. Still the same damp, rotten air. Still the same corpses of the people he had called a party not long ago, weapons laying beside the dead, until one of their hands begin twitching. The dead rise from their shortened trip to the underworld. The knight in former shining armor rises from his position post-haste, grabbing his sword of horrible design. I'm a weapons nerd, don't judge me. And slicing the boar creature in half, its bony spine doing nothing for protection. They retreat to the town once the quest is taken care of, happy to be under a blue sky again instead of a dungeon, but even happier to be holding a big bag of gold. They had received a huge reward as one of the hunted beasties was on their bounty list, and as always, they would split it cleanly between the four of them. This story seems fairly wholesome so far. Where's the twist, I wonder? Editors, poke it with a stick, see if it does something. No? Okay then, on we go. Licht, that's a weird name, sorry if I pronounce it wrong, is given his fair share of the bounty, and they begin to talk about how easy getting this far has been, with the boy constantly bringing them back from the bloody grave. What did I miss? While dying is as an unpleasant experience as one would imagine, it beats staying down there. While the team praises him and is very happy with Licht, it's revealed that he was afraid of them misusing their powers, thus he had never really revealed them. The girl slaps him on the back playfully while the big man pats his shoulder, and the leader of the group, Alan, has said that he puts full trust in Licht to keep on trucking. Verbatim, I have high expectations for you. Thank you, generic Manhwa leader class number 9000. Pretty soon, they are able to defeat monsters of every and all kinds without the aid of a resurrection, though they keep Licht around anyway because he's useful. The next major quest they got down the line after becoming S-tier adventurers was investigating a small shrine, but it is here that the story really kicks off. For you see, he's betrayed by humanity. His gift of resurrection is one that could bring the demons back, and his oh-so-faithful and trustworthy team had led him into a trap. The knights kill him in cold-blooded murder. He's stabbing through the chest and pushing him off a forest cliffside. Do I really need to tell you what happens next? Yeah, I didn't think so. Guard Captain Obvious had neglected to consider the option that Licht's power has the ability to self-activate. Someone give Gotsuya a call if you know that anime. Nobody knows about this since they assumed him beyond dead after they Skyrimmed him off a cliff, Fuzzroda style. He wonders how he should take his revenge, and which one of them tipped the kingdom to his resurrection ability, but concludes that he should probably get going before sundown. Even if he is unkillable, that won't stop the pain of a growling stomach nor fear from woodland creatures. Having been betrayed by the very kingdom he had been working with, Licht goes as far as he can to the ocean. They get to the coast within a few days, or maybe hours, it's not exactly clear. But what is clear is his goal. If they find out that the guy they scrubbed from the face of the earth pulled an ethereal middle finger, there's no telling the forces they may send to rectify the problem. The ratio of humans to demons down in this fantasy land is about 1 to 7. Some math that I'm sure the Helltaker and chocolate pancake lovers in the comments would love. Licht had heard that around the area he was looking for, there was a rather dubious dungeon that would be a good place to get some decent help from. No intelligent creature would turn down his skill. He had come out here on a whim and a not so credible source, venturing into the forest completely alone and unable to really do much without a party. It was all he could do just staying alive out in the sticks like this. But in the end, it was just a false rumor. Licht collapses on his shaking knees, falling to the floor with rage building as the calm ocean waters glide across the horizon in dazzling stars, all of which seem to laugh. In a fit of anger, he picks up a stone and yeets Deletus at a nearby rock jutting out of the water. He bends his head in shame as it impacts something. That didn't sound like it hit a rock. That was solid metal? An illusion covering some kind of extremely ornate metal door that the black and white probably does no justice. Throwing himself into the ocean for a little Atlantic crossing of his own, hopefully without icebergs, he stands at the agape door which almost pulls at his body. The ancient hallway leads farther down than the light travels, which makes it a miracle that he can see without a lantern or lamp of any kind. Consistency? What's that? Anywho, he pulls a big brain move and casts a resurrection spell in the middle of the spacious dungeon. The floor rumbles with a deep harmonic resonance as the magic pours into the floor beneath him, seeping down like a buzzing undercurrent of lightning to feed the hungry souls that wish to reclaim their bodies. It seems like his soul is being sucked out, his brain melting, and hey, pay attention, eyes on screen, because there are now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 waifus. 5 waifus to choose from. Just please save your horny for after the video. James and Editor-san have their bats ready. Okay, let's see how illegal this set of demon girls is. We have 3 lollies, a mommy, a Victorian goth who I'm gonna guess is a vampire. Okay then, we're still pretty deep in BS land. Seems their leader, Mao-sama, is the shorty with long hair. It's pointed out by Miss Goth that this is the only man here, so he must have been the one who revived them. Licht is visibly shaken at the sight of them, staring afraid at Mao with a single eye through his hair. Mao rather quickly dismisses the others back to their designated guard posts under instructions to keep any and everyone away from this place while she has a little chat with Licht. Once the attendants leave the room, it becomes clear that she's by far the strongest thing he's ever seen. The pressure coming off her is suffocating and crushing in tandem. She wants to know how they had been revived, as they had been dead for about 100 years, and even a necromancer would be incapable of bringing back someone without a corpse. Once it's clear he poses no threat, however, Mao opens up a bit more and asks if he'd like to join their cause. He seems to be in trouble, and this was the least she could do. Mao welcomes him into the Demon Lord's army and introduces herself as said Demon Lord. Oh, and her actual name is Arya. Mao is actually her title, which means Demon Lord. Licht introduces himself plainer than a slice of bread, and Arya thanks him for the assistance. The kid is curious as to the others, which Her Majesty explains are her loyal retainers. They would be grateful for the revival as well, but those dirtbags were uncomfortable. As they were quite trusted, each one must possess considerable power, likely enough to overpower an entire team if they were serving the Demon Lord directly. Their first task is rebuilding Dystopia, the dusty dungeon they stand within. At least the layout hasn't changed in the 100 years they've been deceased. It also went by another name in its heyday, Adventurer Killer. Good thing this old place was built to last. It would serve them well as a home once more. Licht asks what he can do to help, but she laughs it off and slaps him on the back. Don't be stupid. Why would I go out of my way to send you into battle? They value his ability to the highest degree since it's one of a kind. Protagonist power, baby! And even have the perfect person to pair with him. Though, as he correctly points out to the boss lady, this place is huge, and only the 4 of them are managing it? Yeah, to the degree that she nonchalantly mentions that they didn't even have time to sleep. Arya dismissively leaves the work to him. Yeah, I don't think she's too smart outside of battle, and the poor Licht just sighs out of frustration. But hey, this would be better than being outside where the kingdom could find him. Going to the second deepest part of the dungeon, the floor right above Arya, he finds one of the girls working hard rearranging the books. Her name is Faris, the Hall of Melancholy's guardian. She isn't a human. She can't be if she's been put down here. Licht explains that he got permission from the top to see what he can do to reduce the workload, so he's come down to investigate what he can do to… Oh, she's kneeling to him. That frame would look really suspicious on its own. As it turns out, she's in control of 5 separate dungeon areas at once. What makes her situation in particular worse is that she's guarding the area closest to Arya, so the pressure is really on when there are intruders. There's not much they can do to reduce the work here because Iris and Tissa guard their area as a pair. Must be the mommy Elphys and girl who called her big sister. The only viable option thus far is to install traps on Faris' floor so she has less to worry about. Next is a visit down to the Primordial Garden to visit the aforementioned pair, the bigger sister Tissa having her tea while the smaller Iris announces they have a visitor. They already know his name from overhearing his conversation with Arya and assume that he had come to assess the current situation. He had indeed, but his words seemed to make them a little bit nervous. They hear him out, and after a while, Licht suggests that since they were currently working as a pair, which was unfair to the rest of the dungeon, they could split and control separate… no. Iris wants her big sister all the time. That and their strengths work best when together, so separation isn't a realistic approach. Finally is the goth Victorian girl, Rosé, who is a vampire who controls the Batcave. Please tell me she named one of them Alfred. The heaviest workload is on her, the one who controls 7 individual areas. Then it finally hits him in the face. There was one person who could make their manpower issues seem like a joke, a name every adventurer has heard at least once, the legendary necromancer. Deciding to take Faris with him, Licht goes out in search of this person. The guards of their grave don't appreciate the intruders and attack on sight, aiming to kill Faris first. Big mistake, as a few moments after he cuts her, the man collapses, dead on the spot just like his slaughter. That's terrifying. Once Faris is alive again, she approaches the remaining man and, editor son, I'm not sure we can show this. Needless to say, she's revived again and they get to work searching for the tombstone. Finding what they look for as the stars twinkle and crickets begin to chirp, the crunching of footsteps comes to a halt in front of the gravestone they have been searching for. Casting the infamous resurrection, a handful of rings breaks free of the coffin and reaches for them, its owner asking for a bit of help climbing out. Boris and him give her the old heave-ho while clearing the pebbles and soil from the now-breathing necromancer, a rather pretty young girl who looks straight out of Skyrim modding. Oh, and for those who don't appreciate the jokes, I'm kinda obliged to do them, so cheers. You can put the weapon down, James. Anyhow, if they were going to resurrect her, they should have at least dug her up first. Hard to breathe in a coffin, I'd imagine. They get straight to the point this time. They had revived her because they wanted a companion, ideally to utilize her unique talent for the namesake title. She proves herself, correctly guessing that Faris isn't a human, then asks how they revived her without a slave relationship that normally comes with magic of that type. Licht explains his ability, including the fact that he can bring himself back to life. They then take a turn and bolt from the graveyard before reinforcements arrive. Once back at Dystopia, Necro, as I'll name her, gets to work by bringing over an entire workforce from the Nether to cover the areas that aren't guarded. All of the summons had been complete in about 3 minutes. Necro also gets an area all to herself, effectively becoming another floor boss. And with the new reinforcements, the others can relax their guard as spirits cover the weaker areas and bolster the former potholes in defense. She had never thought that she'd be working under the Demon Lord. She also asks why a human like him was working with demons, something anyone would question given the armor he's wearing, looking like a giant cross. He can't go back to the human world now, since well, let's not think about it. Then we jump back to Alan within the capital, the girl with him asking if they'd found a replacement for Licht yet. Normally they have to fight on the front lines while protecting their healer, except Licht was an exception to this rule. Every single one of the healers was weak, but because he wasn't in the support class, he just had a skill that could bring back the dead. He was strong enough to stand with them and save himself from danger. The girl shows her psychopathic tendency here, loudly proclaiming that they could always leave the healer behind to die just as before. Ah yes, the medic, always left for dead. There were a lot of applicants for him to sort through, but among all these was a letter directly for Alan, a request for them to investigate a dungeon? An immense magical power had come from one of the seaside areas, a place supposedly abandoned for many years. From the looks of it, there would be no shortage of ease in getting there, as it was not too far from where they were currently stationed. But what really gets them ticking on the idea is the reward money, a hefty 500,000 gold. They have no choice but to accept it, huh? Thanks, Karma, you beautiful, eldritch deity? Yeah, I'll roll with that. In Dystopia, not too many days later, Licht and Necro are cleaning up inside her room, and the woman gets a Discord alert from one of her spirits that humans are beginning to close in on their dungeon. They're exploring the outskirts of the place and have very clearly noticed the revealed entrance. But they would deal with that when the time comes. Attacking now would draw unwanted attention from the enemy and lead them straight to declaring war. We're just gonna jump to that, where Alan and his cronies are entering the dungeon and the plan to wipe them out comes into fruition. Going straight to the punch, the adventurers walk into their first chamber and find tens if not 100 spirits roaming the room freely, guarding the entrance to Arya's sacred halls. The foolish adventurers are taken aback by the sheer number, and Alan asks if this was all done by a single monster. Yeah, Jose, never said anything about a single monster. It seems that they may be dealing with 10 liches, or by the voice behind them, one vampire. Alan was teleported away from his team instantly, not even giving him the time to blink. He's now face to face with Rose, who he thinks is the dungeon's owner. Nah, that chick is far scarier. But while she ain't Arya, she is his opponent right now. Time to die, squishy human. Raising his sword for the offensive and leaving his body wide open, his sword is gone mid-strike and from behind him once again. Rose admits the quality isn't too shabby. Such a pity it's wasted on a race like them. She returns the blade by throwing it to his hands, having a quite bored expression. But when prompted for the one controlling those spirits, Licht's name comes up to surprise Alan. The kid he saw get stabbed through the chest. And not for a second did you consider that Resurrect can be self-cast? Dumber than a pile of rocks, this one. He tries to act tough, asking if she thought bringing up a name from his past would really startle him. Not quite Sunshine. Also, you've already lost. Rose's bats have paralyzed him with their fangs and are now beginning to, well, do what vampires do best. Rose doesn't think she could get much blood out of him, but wait. If she had Licht revive them endlessly, don't that mean she would never go hungry again? Sure gonna test that theory later. Hundreds of bats then swarm the guy, all thirsty for his sweet, succulent human blood, and Dystopia's hallways echo with the cries of help and pain from an unworthy adventurer. Meanwhile, down in the forest zone, Girlie is wandering around trying to figure out where everyone had gone. She runs into Tissa and Iris, going into battle once her ego is pushed far enough. But when one of Iris's little sprites enters her body, she's paralyzed completely. Such a short fight, that one. And finally, Jose meets many wandering spirits in the deep dark down deep dark, tongue twister galore, and pretty soon comes face to face with the adorable Necro. He pulls out his blades and prepares to fight for his life as the legendary woman won't tell him anything, but is surprised by Licht entering the room looking for Dorothy? Oh, what a cute name. With Jose surprised and then some, Licht's emotions are rampantly scattering across the length of the dungeon, and the old teammate asks how the flying flickery Fluffy's alive. English 100. While true, he was executed. Yeah, I'm not repeating myself, you know the drill. But if he's here, that means Alan had to be here too. Licht really wants to have a chat with that boy. Maybe cave his head in with a few resurrections. Abuse of power maybe. But it's not like that jerk didn't abuse his precious healer. Jose would like to know where he is too, as they were all ripped apart from each other in the blink of an eye. Right, the whole teleporting thing. But an important question from Licht as the candles in this magical trap of a labyrinth flicker calmly, a simple one. Did he know about the execution order that the kingdom had given against him? A moment of silence before he answers straight. I did. Okay then, and what pray tell was his reaction to such a thing? Our party won't be as strong anymore. It figures, that's just like this guy, to be all about strength and the money they earn with it. When Jose tries to ask him some questions, Licht basically flips him the bird and says that he's also the one who resurrected the Demon Lord and her attendants. The guy panics and asks if Licht really thinks he'll get away with this. Once the king finds out, the entire military would be sent up on them. Yeah, and? Bring it on. My man must have grown a backbone in that last resurrection. For now, Jose will attempt to retreat to the kingdom. His friend's likely dead already, and warn the Majesty about this act of treachery. He can just use the item he held onto to get back to the surface. Two spirits then attack him under direction of Dorothy, but Jose uses this to his advantage, and midway through the attack, he breaks the orb against the floor to tell a yeet his butt home. Poof, my man is gone. Gonna die because he went straight to Forrest's room. An interference barrier had brought him down instead of up. Pulling out his weapons to attack the girl, he cuts her in several places. I'll leave it to editor San to show, and she falls to the floor, bleeding out. Then her mirror curse kicks in. The king is alerted that all comms they have had with the adventurers within the special dungeon investigation have been cut off. Yeah, if only you knew. They would have to assume the worst for this case because of the nature of that place. But the question they have need of an urgent answer to is how long before the monsters become a threat to humanity's existence. Luckily, his little right-hand man seems to be the one with the plan. Time to send word to the neighboring nations about this menacing dungeon before it's too late. They would begin emergency preparations for an excursion of the diplomatic type, aiming to bring peaceful words of warning to the ones most under threat. Meanwhile, in Dystopia, Arya is thinking it isn't too good of a situation for them right now. Why? Because she's sick of eating the same stuff over and over. Ah yes, the Goku brain cells, only pinging between receptors for food, fight, and friendship. The only one down here who could cook worth a darn was Tissa, which limited the menu to only what she knew how to make given the ingredients they have left. Iris did try cooking. Once. Key word there. But Arya may have a solution to their little problem all sorted out amidst the tiny brain between her ears. Simply go out and make some friends with the neighboring nations. Humanity gonna get one hell of a surprise, eh? That would secure them a new source of food, not to mention many skilled workers. Since it was elves they would be making pacts with first, it would make sense for Licht to recruit Tissa and Iris for this mission. Not only are they part of the race, but they are high elves, which are regarded as superior to others. Even if they don't come off friendly, having some weighted opinions from these two may just come in handy for negotiations. If their mission succeeds, they would be getting more meats and other things in the pantry, alongside quality chefs from the best in the business. Iris gets pouty when she asks why they didn't just have her do some cooking, and Tissa assures her that it's just because Arya is a gourmet. Iris's cooking is delicious and, unique? Yeah, a unique kind of poison maybe. Their job is simply to follow him to the Elven Kingdom while protecting him, nothing too strenuous. Iris seems excited to go, and when they get above ground, Licht is given the heart attack of a lifetime by sight of the giant legendary beast Fenrir being held as a pet. Licht can be at ease, he won't bite. A well-trained doggo who knows who not to attack, though they aren't sure if he's ever tasted human before. Not exactly filling me with confidence here, lady. Once on his back, the revival boy admits that this view is breathtaking. Keanu Reeves joke here. And the three set out on their first ever adventure together into the wilderness of the Elven lands. Iris is just a bit sad while they later walk into the domain that they had to leave Fenchan behind. But it's not really something that could be averted. Yeah, I'd piss myself if I saw something out of mythology just waltzing into my home with 3 people in front of it. But Tissa's words are cut short by something being carried along the currents of wind circling the trees. A sound of some kind that Licht doesn't have the ability to hear. A scream in the distance that keeps yelling for help. Their enemy by the sounds of it is a giant spider, something you don't escape from once it's on the hunt. The two girls rush off into the woods to render aid, Licht following not far behind. They're too late. A little girl lies dead on the floor, about to gobble her up for good. When the heroes arrive, the high elves ain't got time for this garbage, sliding their little sprites into the creature's skin like butter on a hot knife. And the next thing you know, they're detonating it. Freaking sticky spammers? Couldn't you see the bloody bombs? It doesn't take them long to right-size it to existence, while Licht is already working on getting that girl back to life. One who is surprised to see the giant black behemoth dead on its stomach. Tissa does her specialty and calms the baby girl with a hug. That's gonna make Iris jelly, I bet. And the girl whack-is bonkus her head on the ground in thanks to the man who brought her back. They ask the little elfess to take them to the kingdom and act as a guide. And we get the name of the little girl, Lyrica. With practically dazzling sparkles coming off her eyes, Licht introduces himself and the other two as high elves. The girl comments on their beauty. Damn straight. And they are led nonchalantly through the woodland and into the kingdom they oh so seek. As one would expect, they live inside the trees and off the land. The streets are active and merry with no shortage of shade to be found, though the three do get many stares, especially the twin beauties that the elves ogle at for their nature. I'm guessing their kind isn't something you see every day, much less two of them in a single place. Lyrica then runs back to them and informs the group that the princess would see them now. They wouldn't get lost this time around because it was a straight line path to where she was, but Lyrica would come with them anyway. Little Iris seems a bit jealous of the trees out here in the kingdom and would like one in the walls of Dystopia. And it would indeed be nice to have one. Maybe they should ask Rosé if it would be possible. You're gonna give that girl a breakdown. But putting all jokes aside, including my own, I'll bless those in the comments for a bit. Iris would have to behave in front of the royal princess. She may be a high elfess, but she's still a child at the end of the day. Between Tissa and the princess who would be more respectable, I wonder. Iris proves that she doesn't get it. For a while, they stand outside and practice until the girl nails every part of her act, making sure she knows every exact word to say if ever questioned. Tissa pampers the girl once it's over with, and Lyrica gets ready to open the door for them. Now the only question is if they would be on good terms of any kind with the princess behind those doors. If not, then Arya would probably be quite the sulk in her area. Considering the risks they are taking for this kind of ordeal, they would have no choice but to come back with hands full of profit. Entering the room, they find the woman bowing to them, amidst a large open floor, greeting the party of three with humble welcomes. She apologizes for not expressing her gratitude sooner, not even knowing how they would repay the heroes who removed the threat of that giant spider. They had been at odds with it for a long while now, and had no way of taking the damn thing out. But it seems everything turned out alright. Doesn't it always in these stories? Gotta keep those chapters rolling somehow. She opens up the floor to negotiation, recognizing that they have important matters to discuss with this kingdom. Iris plays her part just as she's taught, speaking up that they would be hoping to borrow the finest capable individuals of this kingdom in exchange for jewelry and weapons within Dystopia's possession. To be fair about this, there are many who would take the position, as they are curious of the outside world. In exchange, what they want is protection from the monsters that crawl their forests, like the aforementioned giant spider. As their people are not very fond of violence, that should be really simple for fighters like them. Once the deal has been sealed, the princess agrees to send some of their children back to Dystopia. Children? Okay then. And give her regards to Arya-sama. Though Arsh, the princess, was never even told her name, so how would she know? Okay, you know what? Forget it. My brain is tired and Jerry needs to make more coffee. Next is forging an alliance with the Dragonkin. For this, he takes Rosé with him to the desert, odd for a vampire, and the two start talking once they're flying about the world to their destination. Rosé should really take a break from her work once in a while. The plan was originally for him to go out there all by himself, but she had volunteered quite quickly to be his escort. No, not in that way. Anyhow, with the two of them gliding around thanks to bats carrying them, after a long while of talking and learning that Rosé can go out in sunlight just fine, as it isn't a weakness, they arrive at the Dragonkin village, and in the distance, a girl at the river senses the evil presence. She looks back at where they had come from while the two keep gathering something out of the water, her companion asking what the problem was. The girl had gotten sudden and very bad vibes from the direction of their village, ones which vanished in less time than they took to appear. For their safety, the two may want to call it a day and head home from the glistening blue waters of the lake. And they have to take care of their mother, who is in critical condition anyhow. Would she get better anytime soon? Probably not, but they can't show any signs of weakness. Yes, you can. It's called being alive. Those who say otherwise can meet the barrel of my twin 12 gauge. Anyway, with their mother having eaten less and less over the past few days, it didn't look like she was going to recover anytime soon. While healers do exist in that world, nobody ever heard of someone with the power to cure diseases. Meanwhile, Rosé and Licht are walking about the place trying to find anyone they may be able to talk to for jumpstart of friendly relations. Calling it a village instead of a kingdom is far more accurate, as these guys are far more spread out than humans ever were, preferring to live in more isolation than us. Rose asks what they should do next and if invasion was on the table, but no. Their best bet was to find a lone dragonkin to chat with since 2 or more could be hostile, and launch straight into battle, ruining any chances of friendly relations. Rose spots 2 of them ahead, the same that had just come back from the fishing trip, and Licht is pretty eager to go talk to them. So up they march, the harsh sunlight bearing down with zero mercy. They don't seem to be carrying any form of weapons, and there aren't any others around to have some banter with, so these 2 would have to do. "Good evening," he starts. Kane, the brother it seems, is told to stay on guard from the party approaching them. The male was definitely human, but the woman behind him was clearly not. There's some kind of ominous presence blasting off from her like a plasma torch. Instantly aggressive with this wording, Kane makes it clear that these 2 are not welcome here. But before Licht and Rose are sent away, he lifts Arya's precious sword, a personal weapon given to them as a bargaining chip. The dragon twins are in equal parts majorly surprised and majorly impressed at the craftsmanship, to the point that they even consider that Licht may have some kind of medicine on him that may be able to cure their mother. Rose doesn't have anything but a clove of garlic on her, and Licht gets the bright idea to ask them what exactly they would need the medicine for. Kane explains the situation in brief words, and Mr. Protagonist has yet another light bulb on how he can cure her. Can you guess, I wonder? But if he really possesses such an ability to heal people from ailments, he'd prove it right here and now to earn their trust. Whipping out the old magic circle we all know by now, it's casted on the fish that have long since died in their basket. The female dragonkin, Lalka, falls to her knees claiming that he's their savior. Don't get ahead of yourself now. Taking Licht and Rose to their home in a hut, there are 3 other dragonkin waiting there with the woman currently in bed. 2 are younger men, fairly strong and more refined looking. The third is an aging man of white hair who looks like he's deep in depression. With the young returning bringing 2 humans in tow, the others get a little suspicious at the newcomers. Once it's explained he can heal them, the tension eases up a bit. But now the question becomes how? Resurrection only works on a dead target. And you happen to have a vampire right behind you. Rose does her job and the ancient woman dies in bed, being brought back to full health with the spell. She jolts up from the power nap to the afterlife and everyone is shocked to hell and gone, pun intended, that Licht was able to do something that fast. The children are very happy, their older mother is crying tears of joy, and finally, Licht gets the chance to show them all the weapon of quality that they want reproduced. They will provide the raw materials and leave the dirty work to those who can work it best. Bit of a generic way to do the alliance parts in this story, but whatever gets the ball rolling, I guess. From across the vast land that dystopia sits upon the edge of, something rushes towards its metal door while blowing back the waves of the ocean. A gargantuan explosion rocks the foundations of their home, alerting most who do not sleep of an impending doom yet to come. Downstairs, Dorothy and Licht are doing a routine inspection of the spirits and upper floors to ensure everything is top-notch. They have workplace chatter about the twin alliances Licht managed to form, and he admits that aiding the dragonkin was a pure fluke. At least he's aware of it. Though for all their hard work, Arya seems intent on setting her sights for the outside world as of recent. Feeling cute, may dominate the world later. Nah, probably not. They don't got the faintest clue about what, but something horrendous happened 100 years ago, and she may have learned a lesson from it. But asking her about it is practically taboo. Dorothy had tried to question her, but Arya just got really angry and locked herself in her room for the day. That's something may be the reason she's looking to increase their military might this time around, not make the same mistake twice. Speaking of military, it seems the King of Humanity may have a trick hidden up his sleeve. A proverbial ace which nobody knows anything about. But passing them in the hallways, Licht and Dorothy are greeted by Rose, who says that Arya has called them all down to the throne room for a meeting. The East Demon Lord is starting to pick a fight with them, which may turn out for the worse. Going downstairs to find a very annoyed Arya on her throne, the room looks cautiously at each other, wondering what the heck to do. Varys pipes up amidst the oppressive silence that they were all worried about her by now, and the Queen finally speaks. She had thought that them, the demon race, should join forces against the evils that humanity bring to the world, a common enemy that everybody, even some of their own kind, seem to hate to the core. His response was hurling a spell from his castle to Dystopia's door the previous midnight. Fluff Boy wants a fight? Alright bro, come on then. After a lot of information exchange, it becomes clear that this Demon Lord Garga was not keen on his predecessor's return. For the sake of battle, Arya pairs her with Licht and sends everyone away to get cracking with the plan. Besides Rose being an idiot who wants to suicide charge them into oblivion, the working theory is that they would be in a lopsided fight with these guys in a head-on collision. Thus, they would have to take on a risk by using a combination of Dorothy's spirits and the Elven Girl sprites in as a vanguard. Rose would use her ability of transmutation into a flock of bats to circumvent security. Get out of here, imposter. I see you, editor, you damn troll. And provide information from the other side of the firing line. The next thing we know, Licht and Varys are escaping from the Demon Lord's castle with many little sprites following them, presumably for guard purposes. A massive horned creature with a long maw swings at them with Zerg-like claws, removing a tree from this green earth. One of Iris's sprites enters the creature's body. You can tell by the short hair, and one Demo Man TF2 moment later, it's screeching a dying breath. Nothing less from the demon army, it's way stronger than anything the humans could ever hope to muster. They would be deep under if it weren't for those guardian sprites by now. The demon army occupies 70% of the landmass in the world, including the east area they are standing in. The ominous loom of the distant castle over the tree line of pale bark and dark tree-lined leaves, carved into a mountain by the way it's jutted out from the soil. So many adventurers had tried to explore this area, but as you can imagine, none came back. But with the distractions Dorothy is pulling thanks to her mass spirit control, they could take this chance to invade the demon castle and report intel back to their Arya. Then Lady Karma decides to be a female dog. Faris is pierced through the chest from somewhere in the distant castle, her heart and throat taking the blows. Assuming the assailant is dead from this as well, Licht looks around for any other danger and once the coast is clear, revives Faris. Oh, now the cute girl is saying nano with every sentence? She's forgot the des. The two walk out into the clearing now that the attacks had ceased. With the enemy likely confused about what had just killed one of their own from the distance, Licht considers that the enemy may have forced their powers a bit too early and learned about a valuable trump card. If they become aware of her grudge skill too early, it could be another thing to be nullified. So long as they don't kill Faris, everything is fine. From that point on, Faris was to stay near him as much as she could. If he could protect her intentionally, they would still have a chance to be fooled. Of course, he gets clingy when he says that, but the MC being the MC, he's utterly clueless. This is level drain tears of ignorance, I swear to God. Meanwhile, Licht's assessment was correct. The sniper who had killed Faris died the same way, and it caused their leader to become a bit more erratic. Hold up, is that a fluffing sniper rifle in a purely fantasy story? Okay. Yeah, you're right, James. It's just a story. It's just a story. They assume that the enemy has infiltrated them already, and to that point, the way this girl died was weird. No traces of a murder in this room, no break-ins or entering. This girl was top brass in the army, so she wouldn't go without a fight. They smartly noticed that the sniper chick died the same way as her target at least. Something is off. The girl who found Sniper Girl is to report this to the Demon Lord right away. Once the Lion Commander Dover is done kicking the living daylights out of the intruders, he would have to call a meeting about what to do next. He's going to have to bring out the big blade, the sword of resentment, to deal with these people. Meanwhile, Licht assumes so far that their task has been successful in getting through the enemy defenses. Then the commander appears before them with two elven kids, one with a bow and the other a sword. They don't look like slaves. He brings up the blade and strikes Licht while the other two circle him to start taking care of Faris. An arrow pierces her chest and the boy cuts her up, killing her. This showcases her ability, but while the lion has seen it, he doesn't last much longer as blood begins to ooze out of his eyes. I'll leave it to editor son whether to show that. In short, those were Iris's sprites doing their duty. And finally, the Demon Lord has been alerted to the presence of the intruders. For the past few days, the East Demon Lord Garga has been completely bored out of his fluffing mind. He can't try to dominate the entire world. That's just too much work to keep up. He gets no joy from tormenting those weaker than him. The occasional adventurer here, a whole heaping pile of boredom there. But a single letter from Arya had changed that, one asking for a large-scale cooperation against the human race, their sworn mortal enemy. Instead of greeting her formally, he had thrown a magic attack across the country to her doorstep, just to see how things would pan out in the end. May have the potential to be an interesting playmate. She returned the gesture by sending one just as strong as his back alongside a message declaring him instantly hostile. An ideal person like this, the perfect opponent for him, would only come about once a century, and this girl just happened to be aware of his location. But as the girl who reports to him asks, what if the demon lord he's just peeved off turns out to be the sealed one from 100 years ago? There's no way he could win. That's nonsense. Said entity was vanquished to the bottom of the land. Yeah, keyword was. Speaking of fighting, the girl should probably go and hide if she didn't want to die. She declines, wanting to fight alongside him. But the question is, what can she really do? The poor girl fidgets in silence as she debates what to do. Listen to him and run, or to stay and defy orders? Die apparently. Rose's bats descend on the girl, and faster than the demon lord can blink, a vampire is approaching him, dead in the eyes but saddened in face. As she's staggering forward, he remembers who she just was, the kind girl before serving her the mercy of a quick death. Rose pipes up that such a thing was horrible to do, though she's hardly one to talk from causing the disturbance. Garga would much prefer to ignore Rose's presence and fight Arya, but there would at least be some time to kill with this one. Plus, it's not like she knew where her master was now, did she? Her words of, "How dare you," say everything we need to know. The guy is reading her mind like an open book, forcing Rose to back up and attack him over and over. None of them land, and when he's close enough, the guy manages to slip his foot under her shoe heel and trip Rose up. She falls to the cold floor as Garga is telling her to just release all her power already. He wants something of worth to fight. He isn't a man who likes tormenting the weak, and she wasn't anywhere near her full strength in this pathetic humanoid form. If she doesn't go all out, she would die in this state and let him down for such an insignificant and trifling reason. She gets up from the conversation and says in a chillingly cold voice, "Fine, you win," and proceeds to transform into a huge wolf bat of some kind. He can't read her mind anymore because she's moving using her instincts, but his strength is enough to beat the remaining life out of her. Cutting off one of Rosé's arms, she at least removes one of his in turn before having her teeth shattered from her mouth. Putting a hole through her chest to finish the fight, he admits that for the short time they fought, she was quite the nasty foe. Rosé's corpse lies dormant on the stone floor, bloody marks indicative of the physical trauma she had just undergone. But then from behind him comes an eerily familiar voice. "You seem to be enjoying yourself, eh?" As Garga turns, there she is in all her lolly glory, the Demon Lord Arya ready to rip him limb from limb. Wondering where the heck she had come out of thin air from, Arya had been watching the fight between them since Garga had started flirting about with Rosé. Even the great Demon Lord of ages past couldn't resist the tension between the two of them, so she held her tongue and sat back to watch. All Garga needs to do is be able to use his remaining arm. I'm kinda excited for what Arya's powers will be, but not only can he get her name from the mind reading, he can also tell the Chibi Demon Lord is still holding quite the grudge against him for the attack on her dystopia. She should relax a little more maybe. Arya is curious at this notion, and while Garga is having thoughts of his own on things I'm too smooth-brained to understand, or maybe the writing is just that bad, she mentions that he should quietly recover his arm using healing magic before making an attack, as she knows he has some. There's no way someone like him wouldn't. She's not so much of a barbarian to fight him while he's at a disadvantage. Recovering himself, Garga raises his blade to strike and shifts all his body down to slice Arya in half. But the ancient predecessor just has a huge twinkle go alight in her eye as she uses spatial manipulation to slow everything down and gently sidestep his blade. She can control… okay, now I see why people are afraid. Garga is just as stunned as I was when finding out about Raid Shadow Legends, the MMO… okay, sorry, no. No, don't worry, that's not a thing on this channel. But something does feel incredibly wrong here. It's like a sticky honey or such is wrapping his limbs, making movement slow and arduous of a task. What had Arya done? Clues in the name, buddy boy. Spatial manipulation. She owns this room right now. To prove the point, she severs his finger without anything so much as a stray thought. The intent to do so lingered in the air, but only after the attack had already come to pass. He had no time to counter the attack nor dodge anything, because he never would have seen it coming. Oh ho, what's this? That's a cute little sneak attack, throwing darts at her eyes. She spins her head out of the way and they pass harmlessly over her shoulder. She avoided it by sight alone, proving incredible vision of the kinetic type. To put it simply, nothing within this room is moving within the parameters of its usual speed except for her. He's effectively in slow motion. In order to fight at the full, he'd need to find a way out of this and get outside to where she'd have no choice but to 1v1 him. But that's asking for the impossible. The moment his back is turned, he's dead on the spot. The only way out was by killing her right here and now, which in this state was impossible for any party regardless of strength. But despite the valiant efforts, Arya would have to put an end to this game right now. Licht and Forest were coming, and she wasn't keen on their minds being read. The two arrive and find Arya holding a dead Rosé, who Licht gets to reviving after a small prompt. The vampiress wonders where the East Demon Lord was, getting coddled by a sweet motherly Arya, who's just happy to see her old friend alive again. With the defeat of their first real foe, Arya announces that they would host a party of celebration that evening to commemorate the victory of their short-lived war. In the human kingdom, things are starting to brew over as the elves and dragonkin have not replied to their pleas. The only other option anyone in the room can come up with is to contact the kingdom of Ratha and start getting reinforcement from the only other kingdom of humans around. Once a fair bit of time has passed, Arya asks if Licht wants to go with her to the human realm. Repeat that please? She knows this very interesting place within the human realm and was wondering if he wanted to travel with her to see it. He would want to go with her if only it wasn't to the place he had to flee. Oh no. Don't worry, she wouldn't be going there. The place she's got an eye on is the Ratha Kingdom. Licht remembers that name. He had tried several times to get involved with the adventurers there, but every single one had failed. There were plenty of talks and much speculation as well that their guys were at the top of the line, but good information on that was scarce and very hard to come by. What could have brought Arya's attention to it though? Well, just to be sure, that place is considered a human country. Yes? Uh-huh. But her tone doesn't sound so sure of that. Is she insinuating that the country is full of monsters of some kind? Well, to quote Arya's words, close, but no cigar. Wow, both I and the writer are surprised that she uses such old-school speech like that. Good attention to detail for an ancient demon. The citizens of that place are indeed all humans, but their queen was a demoness. She doesn't rule her country under an iron fist or steel boot, but just takes on the life of a human to live her days out. To put it bluntly, a demon had adapted to living amongst humankind. Yes, and that's what made Arya want to see it. That queen wasn't just any type of demon either. Arya grabs him by the arm and the two leave immediately, the woman flying off into the sky like it's a piece of cake. Meanwhile, in said kingdom, Queen Byrne was dealing with some of the duties of her crown while servant girl Anna is enthralled by her good looks and natural charm. She then retreats to her personal quarters for the moment to rest and recuperate lost energy. Once left alone, she practically falls into her bed with an oof, taking a load off and venting the pent-up stress by flailing limbs. All she wanted was to live comfortably among humans, not take responsibility for them. Everything changes in a matter of seconds when Arya and Lick pop up out of seemingly nowhere right behind her. She threatens to call the guards, but Arya reveals her identity as a demon. How did she know? Well, I'm pretty sure… yeah, those glowing eyes and pressure say it all. It scares Byrne enough to force her transmutation into a kitsune? Oh hell yes, we got a QB, boys! But Byrne still refuses to believe Arya's story of her being the great demon lord. Oh boy, here we go. Do you expect me to believe such a lousy, obvious lie? Snapping her fingers after a curt warning, Licht explodes right next to her. Byrne is utterly stumped as his corpse falls backward, dead on the spot. Resurrection kicks in a second later, and for the second time in consecutive, Byrne gets a heart attack as Licht just sits up from what was sure to be his grave, if he didn't possess that skill. With that being more than enough proof for this kawaii kitsune, added with the bloodlust, that magical pressure and the ease of dispatching a human, she's on a whole different level to anything that would still be breathing today. Anna comes knocking to see what the noise was about, but is waved off with a few sweet words that nothing is amiss. Byrne then explains that all she wanted was to live a peaceful life among humans, yet it turned into her being their queen for some bizarre reason. Arya can't tell if she's smart or stupid, and that's saying something coming from someone the size of a wheeled suitcase. In the end, she is promised basically immortality via way of Licht's resurrection in exchange for her undoubted loyalty. A few cute moments with Anna later include some hair brushing and a cute monster noise. A few days after friendly relations have been established, an emissary from the other human country arrives with a vigorous intent to speak with Queen Byrne. She had rejected other countries to stop anyone finding out about her being a demon and possibly using it against her, but it seems the time had finally come to make her move. The reason he had come was about the other humans. I'm calling them that for ease sake. Had found out about Dystopia and wished to negotiate some backup from the high-quality adventuring teams here. But since she had sided with Arya and the gang, that made the other humans an enemy country that she couldn't ignore. When asking for her announcer's thoughts on the matter, he states that while they could refuse the aid, it may be wiser to hear them out and conquer the dungeon together, as it would likely prove a threat. If she were to gather up all the adventurers from the other country via arranging a meeting with Arya though, that might just get her more praise from the Demon Lord. She decides to meet the emissary first to get a grasp of the situation, though Anna is a bit concerned for her mistress's safety in this matter. Meeting an adventurer just like that? Don't worry, kiddo. Just because she's a woman doesn't make her weak. So her current plan is to take the dub and send all the enemies straight to the doorstep of death, cleaning up a mess in one go. Meeting with the emissary, we find a man with a huge scar down his face from left to right. The S-rank adventurer Guy is honored to meet the elusive ruler of this kingdom. It's a queendom though. Guy admits to her that they had already attempted to scan the dungeon and question for anything hostile, but the party sent in has never been sent out if she catches the drift. He has an uncanny intuition that if the place is left alone, it could become a threat to the whole world with enough prep time, and the place has already been making the rounds in the adventuring community as a danger that should not be prodded even with a 40-foot pole. Though what concerns him the most is the level of people who they had sent to that place. Given how 3 S-ranks had not returned, it could spell out a Demon Lord's residence for any looking at the fine print. Adding even more fuel to the fire, there was a recent commotion at the Eastern Demon Lord's castle. Amazing! He got almost everything correct just by a first glance. We then get a brief bit of information about this hidden treasure that the Rasaga Kingdom has in their possession. A blade with sharpness that increases the more damage its user takes. Is that it? You are going to die horribly if that is your trump card, my man. Bashing his head against the table and thanks to Queen Byrne for her generous cooperation in these trying matters, Her Highness is a little more dismissive of his odd behavior for the sake of chivalry. When would they be planning to invade this mysterious dungeon per se? Well, they already have all preparation work done on their side, so it's really up to her. Ain't that convenient? Byrne straight up lies, telling him that she needs time to inform the Adventurers Guild before any moves are made. In stark reality, she's going to report to Arya-sama using the bot time. He promises to bring back to her only good news and progress from the outing, blissfully unawares of what he's walking into. Meanwhile, on the floors of Dystopia, Licht has come to visit Dorothy for a bit of sharing of the fruits that Iris and Tissa had shared with them as a gift. She's happy to help him wolf them down as neither of them can finish the whole bowl. Is there love blooming a bit in here? I mean, he did bring her back from the dead. They sit down to enjoy themselves and begin going ham on the fruits. The two begin idle chatter about how things have calmed down. There's really not much work to do now. All they can do is sit back without any work to do since everything is running smoothly as it can be. But hey, it's nice to sit and relax in this calm for a bit. All the fighting can really tire a person out. If they take too long on their breaks though, then all the work would get flung down to Rose, which would make it harder for the vampire to keep up with her own jobs. Her stamina may be greater than that of a human, but it's not limitless. Dorothy had tried to talk to her and offer her aid in taking some of the weight off, but nope. Miss Rose is a big girl who can take care of it herself. After a bit more of the lovely little talk these two are having, which would bore us all to sleep, suddenly the door is cast aside and in comes an ecstatic Arya who proclaims that their time had come. The humans were about to launch an assault on Dystopia, so things would get really spicy in a heartbeat. The only reason Licht could think of within the logic of the Resaga Kingdom's current situation was a suicidal one. Arya confirms that this is an all-out force of the best meant to wipe the slates and return anything living to the underworld. If they are really that determined, then Dystopia must pose a bigger threat to them than was imagined. Not a big surprise if they find out who was buried here by that legendary hero of theirs. Byrne had informed them of the incoming and claimed that Resaga was trying to get on good terms for the major boost in quality needed for this expedition. No matter how hard Licht tries, he couldn't seem to get away from those things. Hardly even call them people for what they did. It doesn't seem like Byrne had gotten anything useful beyond this, such as a metric of their strength or numbers. So Arya thought maybe Licht would have something they could use against his former country. He got nothing and she immediately turns away to look at Dorothy, forgetting that she had seen that place lost over a century ago. Oh well. For now, if they had any tactics for battle they wanted to try, now would be the pitch-perfect timing to whip them out. She'd leave the rest of the preparations to them, going to rest up so she can be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed to fight the good fight. Well, first things first, gather the troops. They head down to the creatively named Batcave where Rose is. After some formalities and cups of coffee being handed out, they get to the point. Tissa and Iris would do as they always have, deal with a mass number of enemies, while Rose would be receiving orders directly from Arya. Run through the battlefield. Oh, okay. So murder everything that isn't one of them. Forrest would stick with Licht as a partner, which makes Dorothy a bit jealous. Flowers of love blooming in here. And with that, their game plan has been decided. Isis gets some beauty sleep, woken up by her big sister of an elf, and the two head out. Sounds like the battle has already started. Rose is holding down the entrance to Dystopia solo, which is an impressive feat considering the flood of humans on the scene of the battle, meaning their best choice was to take the flank routes and clean up any stragglers. Iris casually adds the madness effect to her sprites headed to the entrance, which would make people lose their minds like rabid animals, so the place might be a bloodbath by now. Though one of her sprites is now dead, meaning a skilled fighter must be present. On the front lines amidst the heat of destruction and death, many people begin attacking their friends and cutting down all in their way. Rose is crushing the resistance, making the humans call her a monster. Yeah, she's a monster. What did you expect from a dungeon? Unicorns and flowers? Take off the pyrovision goggles, my dudes. One of the insane lurches towards his closest ally with his sword raised, attempting to blow through his guard with a violent scream, and for this, he gets a kick straight to the stomach. He must have been infected by the vampire, but his condition seems too different from that. Nobody has ever heard of a monsterized human becoming this aggressive after turning, but can't deny the facts when they're trying to bite your face off. Stabbing the former friend in the chest with the beheading to follow, a little light floats out of the corpse and Rose appears behind the killer. He attacks her immediately, holding her off as much as he can until reinforcements could arrive. At least, that's what Rose thinks at first, but no such backup would manifest. His reaction said it all. This dude tries to be a right hero by holding Rose here in a battle lock, but as you can probably imagine from the sprite sliding through his armor, that doesn't last very long. Staring at Rose through wide and soon-to-die eyes, he falls to his knees as the life begins to fade out of his face. The color drains, not like there's much, and his final view is of the sassy vampire staring down at him almost out of pity. Hey bro, there could be many worse things to see before you pass on. As Licht expected, some have pushed through into his hallway and are charging at them recklessly through the dimly lit light musk of darkness. They would face these guys head on and try to score some victories, but could Licht really fight them on equal ground? Well, he was a former S-rank adventurer, so yes. As long as his opponents are nothing but ordinary humans, he can win without much hesitation. But the one he would be fighting wasn't just any old dude. It's Geit, another S-rank. Oh no. In direct combat, he'd be a real pain in the behind to take down. As weird as it sounds, I hope he goes for Forrest first. This dude is so legendary not because he's one of the current top S ranks, he's also the right-hand man to the King of Resaga. The honorable title he holds over others has only been given to 3 people across the history of their entire nation. If that guy is a shark, Licht is nothing but a bass in the water. Like if you remember that horror show of a Manhwa. Forrest is told to do her duty and she nods, beginning to close in on Geit without a weapon of any mention nor any detectable animosity. Is he just not going to attack the girl then? Ugh. Here we go again with the old chivalry routine. But without missing a beat, she nicks the knife off her leg strap and charges him, aiming for the heart as a feint while going for his weapon. Yeah, he ain't falling for a simple trick like that. Very good try on tactics though. Managing to pin her to the floor with the sword already out. Do not take that out of context, I swear to God. He's disappointed that she's such a weakling in comparison to what he was expectant of fighting. Licht is his next target, trying to resolve this with some civility. Guide asks what their plan of action is, but gets stone-faced by the kid who he recognizes from somewhere. Licht attempts the same thing, but gets seen through just as easily and tied up next to Faris. Guide then stabs him in the shoulder, asking where he is and why he recognizes Licht in particular. Answers never come as the boy smartly fakes being knocked out from the pain. When Guide realizes this, his attention immediately turns to Faris, who hasn't said a word since he'd captured her. But then something terrifying happens. Thinking that Faris would just answer his questions to avoid the pain, she doesn't even answer him. She may have just lost her mind from all the stress. Guide grabs her by the fringe and lifts her head, looking straight into her eyes, and what he sees forever scars him. That glare has some quality of the damned, screaming back at him to let her go if he wants to live. It's enough to send shivers down his spine and force him to let go. Before he can do anything else to this horror of a little girl, the door is kicked in and Rose sees what's going on to her friends. The vampire deletes the S rank with a single kick, electrocuting him. Rose is then asked to untie them and she begins to do so while crying like a blubbering baby that she was too slow, and being sorry for Licht's injury because of her lacking. Not quite how it works, sweetheart. They also untie Faris, who is sad that she couldn't be of much use. But to be bluntly fair, neither could Licht. The two girls fawn over him, worried about the wound on his shoulder and how it could fester. So Rose picks him up on her back, and they start heading to Faris' room to patch him up. The bats also start informing Rose that the traces of humans that entered this hell were completely gone. And the reason for this is quite simple really. They woke Arya up. She wanders through a hallway of corpses, the demon lord returning to her quarters without incident from the aid she had received via Iris and Tissa. With Arya now giving them all days off for their participation in winning the battle against humanity, everyone can finally relax and unwind from the stresses of battle. Rose admits to Licht that she's planning on using a few of her days off to return home and visit good old Ma and Pa. Yes, Rose said home, which aren't words you would expect from her. Speaking of expectations, would they still be, alive after a full century? Well, apparently so, since 100 years was a small time for a vampire. They should still be there if nothing of significance had come to sweep them away in the winds of time. Though Rose also makes an unexpected request of Licht. Would he please go with her to visit them? I see. For the resurrection in case something had gone wrong. Plus she wanted to introduce him to them as her savior. Must be tradition in Japan. He agrees, though worries the two may be a sight he wishes not to see. Something of horror or ungraceful stature. Nah fam, they chill. Welcoming and kind to those who aid them and assuming any friend of their daughter is their own. Him and Dorothy would be fine. Yeah, she's bringing the necromancer along too. They would leave the next morning, so time to get some deserved rest for the lengthy trip. The group begins to take their mind off the high flight with some small talk. Dorothy starting with Rose's past. It seems that she was quite the big crybaby in her childhood, while Dorothy was the total opposite. Her teacher made her cry daily, but from that she learned to be tough. She must have an iron stomach to deal with the amount of undead that comes with her title of legendary necromancer. But the stories of her death were a straight up lie. She was murdered by 5 people in bed, not cut down by a beast. Rose changes the subject to favorite animals. Hers are doggos, the goodest boys and girls of the animal kingdom. Hold up, is someone messing with the aircon? Oh well. In a way, Rose is like a doggo, since she's loyal and loves praise from her master Arya. Dorothy's like a cat, which I can completely understand. And finally, we arrive at Rose's family home. Whoa, this girl got some rich folks. Is Rose actually a respectable lady? Counter question, what pumpkin wears fancy clothes like hers? Pushing open the doors and waltzing in like she owns the place, which she pretty much does, Rose is greeted warmly with glee by the maids who announce her presence for all to hear. She asks to be taken to her parents, wish granted, though Dorothy and Licht stick out like sore thumbs. With them being immediately escorted into the room, we can immediately tell Father is the eccentric type while Mother is where she got the good looks from. Giving plenty of hugs and loves, Father will the chefs to prepare all of her favorite meals for a welcome home feast. He then introduces both Licht and Dorothy as her companions, which the parents mistake as something completely wrong. Moving everyone to the dining hall and a full table of food, the two extras wonder if they should do anything to help. That is until Father calls upon Licht to introduce himself. The man's name is Arius and the woman is his wife, Camilla. Oh, har har. He asks what Rose is normally like at work and hopes that she isn't causing any trouble, embarrassing his daughter like all parents do at least once in their lives. He's basically a corporate slave to Arya, but Licht chooses his words carefully and paints her in a much better light than they likely anticipate. They then ask the million-dollar question of why she hadn't been home for the past 100 years. Kinda hard to return when you're dead, ain't it? Yeah, they don't bite the bait on that one, as she was sitting before them all alive and well. Her father takes a few moments to consider the information he's just been given. He comes to the immediate conclusion that Rose's killer would receive painful demise, but Licht would have to gain rewards for this as well. He'd need more time to think on that. For now, they were to enjoy the presented meal. Arius takes Licht away from the group to a private study, explaining that he was completely taken aback to learn about his daughter's story and how he had resurrected the great demon Lord Arya. Licht then asks an interesting question. How did Rose and Arya meet in the first place? Vampires and demons don't mix well if his gut feeling is to be believed. She had saved their lives when a group of vampire hunters surrounded them, ready to kill both parents and their young daughter for being blood-sucking parasites. They would try their damnedest to protect their baby, but the hunters targeted her in specific. If they could wipe her out, the parents would become enraged, making for easily predictable moves. Then Arya arrived. She only aimed for the hunters and wiped everyone but their family out, saving them. It was over in a matter of moments. It didn't matter if demons and vampires were sworn enemies. At least it didn't matter to Rose. It's becoming clear why she devoted herself to Arya, and that cuddle and affection she got from the demon lord after the battle with Garga. But then comes the question on the tip of Arius' tongue. Why did a human like him revive the mortal enemy of his race? Licht freezes for a second before admitting, I want to exact revenge on the humans? He hasn't told Arya this yet, but that is his ultimate goal. There's nothing anyone can do or say to stop him from carrying such a thing out. The old man is grateful for no secrets being kept and is about to say something when behind them, a voice asks, Father, what are you and Licht talking about? Rose in an informal nightgown? Well, ain't she just a sweetheart? And wait a second, good night? Vampires don't… okay then, fine. Dorothy catches up to him later while he's going for a stroll through the vampire castle, having walked a bit fast for her legs to keep up with. They wonder if it's okay to walk on such fine carpet and dirty it, but as Licht points out, if they start worrying about every little detail like that, it would only end up being a pain in their behinds. The two of them are looking for the library that Rose had mentioned her family having in the castle, and out of the body behind him comes the sweet voice of a maid asking if he needs any servicing. Okay, probably a bad way to word it. Thanks, writer. The lady guides them through the hallways to the library they seek, as it isn't too far away from them. The place is as you imagine, packed from floor to rafters with books. The one to catch Licht's eye is a very highly decorated one made with dragonhide and a giant gem embedded in its center. While Dorothy is off playing with her pages, he looks through the photo album of Rose's childhood. She was such a cute little thing back then. Still is. There was a lot more conversation of how adorable she was back in her childhood and how the maid missed her like that, where everyone would flock to her if she so much as scraped a knee. Then the maid asks for a selfish request, one to document Rose as she works in dystopia. Meanwhile, Dorothy has been going through books faster than memes live and die, which is saying a lot. She then tests a spell on him without permission, rude, and restricts his legs with long noodle arms from the floor. There are plenty more spells in that book, but the one she's interested in needs a corpse. Not that they need it when resurrection is a thing. The next day, Rose is trying to wake Licht up as it's already noon and he'd probably sleep the whole day if they let him. Then why don't you let him? Since it can't be helped, she leans over and pierces her fangs into his arm in a mini bite. I guess you could say she's, you know what? Never mind. James has presented me the error of that joke. The mansion suddenly gets very lively as intruders manage to find their way in after a maid brings everyone the news before breakfast. As the three jump to their feet, all except Rose in their normal gear, the words fall on them that all maids have already gone out in search of these supposed vampire hunters. 3 in total, so this might be a 1-for-1 battle. Licht stops to think for a moment as he thinks, finally saying to Dorothy and Rose that they too should join the fray. The girls nod and our 3 heroes run out of the door, a vampire, a necromancer, and a human who refuses to die no thanks to his magic. 2 men are standing around a corner, one keeping an eye out for any show of a pesky threat. Alf, as he is named, is asked by another masked guy if this is really a good idea, but they cannot just up and leave after being shown such insane rewards for clearing this place out. The girl asks Mr. Mask if he's going to chicken out at a time like this, as it's pathetic. No, the only pathetic thing here, lady, is your non-existent sense of self-preservation. This was massively different from the picture they had seen on the subject. He admits that they're right and the group recount their plan. Flank the 2 vampires reported to live here. Good ol' surround and conquer. But after the group agrees and splits up, Alf the intruder is spotted by one of the maids while he's trying to peek a corner, while Lean and Mask are somewhere else. He puts a knife to her back, warning that any other noise would get her killed, and hurting any of the maids here will get you killed. She disregards his warning and yells aloud for Dorothy anyway, getting stabbed through the underarm? Correct me if I'm wrong, but apart from blood loss, I don't think that's fatal. It should only make her scream more. But of course, she's insta-dead, and Dorothy now has him in grip of the noodle arm spell she was practicing the previous day. He manages to get free, and the guy tries to act cool with, "Finally, you show yourself, vampire?" The last word is split by confusion as he sees her face. She's human, isn't she? What was one doing here? Oh well, hands behind her back and kneel. Her life would be spared if she did those things. Instead, a spirit is summoned as Dorothy says, "What do we have here?" Dodging his knife blade, the dude manages an underhanded kick to her abdomen. Dorothy still refuses to give up. She manages to kick the blade from his hand in the next attack after refusing him, but gets throat grabbed for all her trouble. The maid's corpse then stabs him through the throat with his own blade. Dorothy takes a seat on the cold floor to regain her breath and wonders how the others are doing. Unfortunately, Lean has taken out 3 of the vampire maids in quick succession and is about to crush the scared 4th one after she refuses to yield and tell of where her masters may be. Having enough of this, the woman details what she's going to do to the poor vampire and raises her sword like the sociopath she is. That's 4 down. When Licht appears on the scene, seeing the pile of dead bodies, admitting that humans are just as cruel as demons. Damn straight. As the vile Lean stands to face Licht, confused to heck and gone as to why there was a human in the vampiric castle they had been tasked with clearing out, the kid asks right back at her, what was she doing here? And why were all the maids behind her dead? Simple answer, really. Money. What else would there be? Through the power of resurrection, the 4 girls behind her arise on their own free will once more, and as Lean is talking, they yell to ask if Licht is alright. He can't die. Duh. He's fine. Looking behind her at all the things she just killed, Lean has an uncanny sense of dread as Licht tells them all to run away for the time being. Hurry up and head over to where Rose and Dorothy were. So it was right, this is a 1-to-1 battle. They wish Licht's luck from the goddess and run for it. Lean turning with a cruel sneer towards him while brandishing her blade in fighting stance. Rather brave of him. Yeah, it was. Or maybe it was because he never wanted to see those girls get killed in the first place? Who knows? Only you two, mate. But now it's time to answer Lena's question. Why was he a human here? Moreover, why is he allying with the vampires? That's an offense punishable by treason. Raising a blade to defend himself, the protect sweats as the vicious woman charges. Clashing away her sword, she admits that he ain't bad and has some good moves. If he had just stayed in the human realm, he would have made a boatload of money. No, he would have suffered burning to death 1,000 times over as they tried to roast him like the Salem witches. That's assuming they were smart enough to realize he wasn't dead. Licht takes the compliment, but she then realizes that he may not have a place to go to in the end of it. In that case, she'd give him one, the afterlife. No. Yeah, she definitely kills him by way of stabbing through the heart and ripping out his internal organs, but he doesn't stay dead. Lean gets her arm shaved for her efforts. She won't be able to hold up against him if he can just pull an Undertale and endlessly come back. There must be a way to kill him. Calling Licht a monster, she goes on the offensive again and kills him again, and again, and again. Finally realizing that Licht is somehow doing the impossible, she kills him one more time and is quick to leave while mentioning that there are others like her. He comes back with the creepiest voice, saying, "So there are 2 more of you, huh?" Trying to dash away, we jump over to the ace of their group, sneaking around behind pillars. His gut is still telling him that something is mega wrong here. Good call, buddy. They should have only come here after thinking about it a bit longer. To begin with, why have no enemies appeared before him thus far? Because vampires don't have the brains to lure people in? Or wait, no. Considering the size of this place, they may actually be smarter than he thinks. That's right. Never underestimate your opponents in any capacity or you'll get burned. Or in his case, you'll sneak into a private castle and meet the heiress who's returned for vacation. Say your prayers now, son, cause you ain't leaving alive. She thanks him for attacking one of her bats, so she knew his location at once, having appeared from a swarm coming together to form a person. He remarks that Rose is an interesting vampire to say the least, and he even asks if she's a kid. Oh, bad move. Ignoring his attempt to aggravate her, Rose asks if that knife he stabbed the poor bat with was coated in poison, as there is an unpleasant pricking sensation buried deep in her body somewhere. Yeah, it was. Phew, relief big time, because she had thought there may have been something wrong with her body for a second there. Admittedly, at least, the amount of poison was minuscule and it was really weak compared to what a pro would throw at her. Rude, dismissing his combat style. Then to her second question, would defeating them stop hunters gathering at the castle to tackle her parents? Well, no, they would just be deemed a dangerous threat. Typical humanity. But it's not like it would matter much since she was about to drown in defeat while here. Big words. Where's the bite for that bark, my man? She has 0 openings and Rose would like to meet up with Dorothy and Licht quickly now. So if they could just hurry this along. Mask says that this would be a waste of time. Why? Because your friends have found them? Get real, mate. They're out of your league. Trying to take advantage of Rose's adolescent mind, he flaunts that their teammates have already captured the 2. She has no way of knowing whether this is true or not, and can't spot a bluff to save her life. Then managing to get up close real quick, Rose bites the dude's arm and does the vampire thing. I hate needles. Please get it off my screen. He tricks her into turning around to go see her friends, but Rose flies away before he can stab her in the back. Instead of worrying about him, she tells him to just stay there and die, which causes the guy to stab himself with his own sword. Youch. She finds Licht safe and sound, and together, the two fly off in search of Dorothy, while the girl he had fought, Lean, had run away from him in battle. Dorothy is sitting on the floor still with red marks around her neck and a blood-stained dress. Licht resurrects the maid and everyone is safe for the time being. But while Dorothy is about to send her spirits in pursuit of the escapee, a large and terrifying presence overtakes the castle. A murderous intent fills the castle, which Rose seems to recognize as her father, and he'd spooked Dorothy quite badly with the radiance of bloodlust, causing the poor girl to retch. Later, after the fact of this, we learned that he'd run into the vampire hunter and, well, did his vampiric thing. That's what they had all experienced. The parents discard Licht, demeaning himself with comments on his uselessness, but him and Dorothy leave the family alone for a moment as it is Rose's last day and they want her to spend time with her old mom and dad. But then her dad does the, "So, Licht seems to be a good match for you" routine, and he tells her that the boy may have feelings for her too. The clock then strikes and it is time for the three to return home to the dystopia that awaits them. Vowing she will come back to visit her folks again someday, Rose runs off to join her friends outside the door. Arriving back home without incident, the two girls bid Licht a goodbye as everyone returns to their respective posts, the boy going to his room first thing. The tiny little Ferris is in her nightgown and had taken the liberty of cleaning his place up while he was away, though she really should have cleaned her own room before his, but that's beside the point for now. How was his day off, Nano? Sorry, had to do the speech quirk at least once. It's cute. He had lots of fun and met Rose's parents, and here in Dystopia, nothing of great significance happened. Why was he so sad about that? Wonder who got the real off day here. Speaking of which, Arya had come looking for him in recent times. Why was she searching for someone on their day off? Rather, he had better not keep the boss waiting. They go in search of her through the dystopia, and at least it didn't seem like Arya was in a bad mood of any kind for this. Though before Ferris can finish her second sentence, the Demon Lord shows up behind them and checks he's in good shape. Spoiler, Ferris was right on the money. He's different, sadder somewhat. Arya sees right through this and dismisses him for the time being. The problem with Licht is obvious. His wound from the betrayal of humanity is still sore. While he thinks about how his skill is accepted here where it wasn't in his own people, Ferris and Arya arrive again to tell him that there's a job for him. Byrne, the Kitsune Queen, has requested bodyguards from Dystopia as a skilled assassin is after her life. Arya cannot trust this to anyone else because there's nobody to bring her back from the dead should the worst case happen. Skipping past a lot of dialogue to where they arrive, things we don't have time to cover, and that aren't important details, Byrne warns her little servant girl, Anna, not to be rude to these people as they were big and powerful, rather picky friends of hers. Licht and Arya are set to arrive, and Byrne orders that these people be escorted to her immediately. They are, and next we see Arya in her new and cute outfit that definitely wasn't murdered for. No, the blood on it earlier was just some, you know what, best not to think about it. Anyhow, Byrne had seen her grim future not through any information branches, but through fortune telling. So you brought the most powerful demon lordess in the known world here to bodyguard you just because of a vision? Arya is buying this even less than I am. Licht, however, is a wee bit more educated in the ways of the Kitsune, and knows that some of them have the ability to actually divine the future of their lives. Mentioning this to his boss, Arya just sighs and is forced to concede to making a game plan. She pulls the stops out, and by her order, Byrne is confined to this room and this room alone. Arya doesn't care if she gets killed. Licht is there. But obviously, humans can't see her being killed. Fair play. The issue of running the kingdom is solved with Anna being her Royal Majesty's personal messenger to the outside world, and Licht would be assigned to guard her every waking moment, bar the obvious bathroom trips. At this point, all they have to do is wait, so Arya decides a nap is in high order. Byrne finishes explaining to a rather distraught and scared Anna from behind the door of her situation, and why nobody would be allowed into the Queen's chambers for the moment. The girl bravely, though fearfully, understands, asking if her ladyship would truly be alright in the situation. Yeah, she'll just be chilling for a few days, and if anything were to happen, Anna would be notified through the door immediately, if not by words then by screams. After all, Anna is the only person she can really trust right now beyond the two sitting behind her. Both Arya and Licht seem somewhat discontented. Arya asks brazenly if it's really a good idea to trust such a loose-lipped little girl, as her gut tells her that the kid could fluff up at any given moment. But Byrne assures her that Anna is a good little bean who can do what she needs to when the time comes. Still though, it's amazing that Byrne can be cooped up for 3 days without much strain on the kingdom. They trust her a bit too much, it seems. Well, it's not like Byrne cannot talk to them at all through the fabric door. Lot easier for them since they don't gotta deal with prying eyes at every corner like this. It's also a given that the nobles and other politicians have their hands full with the adventurer crisis. Arya, being the lazy demoness she is, opts to go back to bed for now, since there wasn't really anything to do beyond use a set of playing cards, which would get real boring real fast. Burn and Licht aren't sure what to do with themselves, so the queen just starts remarking how amazing resurrection is, and I have to agree. Though being unable to die must come with its own caveats, I wonder what happens when Licht dies of old age. Does the spell just res him again? Burn also has her own unique questions to this, like how long after death can people be revived with this? Well, if Arya is anything to go by, at least 100 years. There ain't no usage limit either. Guess there's a reason they call this a cheat skill. Though the one caveat is that he cannot seem to res people from afar. He needs to be in the same space as them as far as he knows, and he's never really tested the distance limit. I wonder if it will work on Dorothy's spirits as well. Probably not. As the stars begin to fill the sky, Burn had not realized how much they had spoken and spent time together. But Licht and her seem to have had some good fun discussing the semantics of spell working in the interim we didn't see. Though the queen is getting a wee bit antsy right now, as that is usually the time of night where she has a nice warm bath outside of her room. Arya's orders were clear. However, nobody in or out until the deadline, no pun intended, has passed. Gently attempting to wake up his boss lady from her likely terrifying dreams of mass murder happy gore, Licht almost has his arm taken off by her big chompers and recoiled just in time to save him a painful death and resurrection. That mess would not have been fun to explain to the cleaners after 3 days. Opening a hidden door to reveal a bathhouse hidden away from local view, Arya immediately goes in and throws her clothes to one side. Don't worry. Licht rejected their offer with a rain check on bathing together. My boy got some manners. Jumping through a lot of filler dialogue, the assassin waiting outside clicks his tongue in annoyance. No easy kill for you tonight, buddy. As she ain't alone, and that girl is the most terrifying thing you'll ever see. He's not aware of where the queen is though, and only sees Licht through the gap in the open window. Her ladyship ain't even shown for quite some time now. He shoots Licht with the poison dart, and after dying, the dude just sits right back up like it was nothing, thinking he'd fallen asleep or something. Arya and Burn come out of the bath in short order, and Licht is asked if anything strange happened. Now that you mention it, yes. Arya asks if any illnesses he has would go away with the resurrection, and in theory, yes, that is the case. Perfect. Now clench your teeth, she orders, cocking back a fist in preparation. Huh, still the trigger-happy murderous lolly we know and love. Hopefully not too much. I see some of you nasties in the comments. When Burn interjects and breaks the two apart though, Arya notices that the window is ever so slightly open. Bad news for her skill, spatial manipulation, which can only be activated in enclosed spaces and slows time to the point that she's in an overwhelmingly advantageous position. Oh, so it does work how I thought. And that's a pretty glaring weakness. Good on the author for including one. Anyhow, the three of them should probably get some sleep before tomorrow, as they would still have to be on guard. Arya grabs the floof tail of a plush foxy and pulls it in for a pillow, already falling into Wonderland, and Licht goes to sleep on the couch. Waking up in the daylight of the next morning, Burn offers him coffee and the demon lordess gets up without using her teeth this time, stretching and being all bushy-tailed. She makes sure Licht is feeling better after yesterday's shenanigans with him falling asleep on the job, and then spots something unusual outside. A dude far, far below them hiding in the shadows of a building, just watching them. She flings open the window and this startles the guy she's watching. Certainly a suspicious reaction. Hunting season is open, ladies and gents. Let's get it.